This out. Now, I've always had this belief that Great Britain, they took everything. Like, all right, you got to understand Psalms 83. Psalms 83 explains that these nations were going to come together and form an alliance to overtake Israel, right? So that the name Israel, not Israel, but Israel, isn't, the Egyptian name of it, version of it, will be in remembrance no more. And they've done that. No one talks about Israel. They talk about Israel, right? Wrong name. They don't talk about, you know, the whole 12 tribes. They just talk about Judah, the tribe that all the royal bloodline was supposed to come from and things like that, right? So to me, I've looked at this thing and it's like they split everything up. All those that participated in overthrowing Israel, they split up and have a part of it, right? Great Great Britain, they take the part of Judah, right? The what we call the Jews today. They took theirs. That's why, like, the throne of England is supposed to be the throne of David, right? The rock that sits underneath David, the throne of that's there is supposed to be the rock that, you know, Israel, the real Israel, the man Israel, before his name was changed, right? Jacob, this is whose name was changed to Israel. This is his stone that he fell asleep on, right? It's underneath their throne. They're sitting on it, which is like a mockery to me, right? Why the hell are you sitting on top of, a sacred monument to them, to Israel, right? And don't think I'm just all about Israel because Egyptians, remember, the Bible says the Egyptians are God's people. No one wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about, like, it's because something struck me. I'm reading through the book of Jeremiah, and it talks about God's going to restore Egypt, and this is the same time he restores Israel, but nobody wants to talk about that. They only talk about Israel. I'm like, wait a minute, what's this deal? Why is he restoring Egypt if Egypt did all this stuff to his people? And as I've learned, I read more of the Old Testament. God says it literally, the Egyptians are his people. Okay, so it's not just Israel that's getting Israel that's restored, but the Egyptians are restored to their former glory, right? So people are, well, we're only focused on Egypt or Israel and all this stuff. When I know something's really going down is when I start to see Egypt, real Egypt, not the place that they have over there that they moved everything to, but the real Egypt, the ones that the Rastafarians talked about, all right? The one that's in Asia, the real Egypt. When it starts to come back to its former glory, that's when I'll be like, all right, something real is happening. Everything else is man-made, right? So I've looked at them like Great Britain took things that belonged to Judah. So a lot of the lands that they took, I found Judah was there. Okay, that's why they took his territories. The United States seems to take everything that would belong to Israel, the other 10 tribes, right? They take their territories. I've already told you, we live in the land of the north. Go open up the Old Testament. It's not in the New Testament. It's all in the Old. Land of the north, land of the north, land of the north. They cross over the River Jordan, right? They're over in the West Coast. That's why I believe California is it. I believe California is the real Gaza. It is along the West Coast. What did the Spaniards say when they got there? They said to California, Eureka, we found it. What were they looking for? Didn't they give us some lame ass story? Oh, we were looking for the Pacific Ocean. But yet, before they were bringing slaves to America, the Spaniards were already coming to America from via the way of the Indian Ocean. So they already knew where the Indian Ocean. They knew how to get to America through the Pacific. Don't even give me that. They were bringing their dogs from Australia. I mean, from Spain to Australia and then to America from there, right? Why the hell would they go the choppy way around the Atlantic? That doesn't make any sense. More fairy tales you gotta believe. But the morals of this is, so reading about Samson, he comes from a seafaring people, right? His father's name is Manoah. And I'm like, where have I heard that name before? And I was like, whoa, 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 here we go. Here we go. Now, they don't have the H, but everything else is spelled phonetically the same. Now, you got to understand, the Hebrew language, right, and the Samoan language are not one and the same. They're not. I've tried looking to see if there's any like common common. I've tried to see if there's any like way to find, like, because with Japanese, right? I found so many common words in the Japanese language. I can't think of the actual word I'm looking for, but I found like ways to see where you're speaking the same language. All right, I haven't found that so far with the with the Hawaiians, so that's why I've never even really spent much time paying, like looking into it. But this was the first time I'm like, all right, seafaring people, tribe of Dan, because they couldn't take their land. Where did they finally settle? All right, because you can't live on boats for the rest of your life. Right? Even the Vikings had to find land eventually. I'm like, I wonder, why is this name here? You see what I'm saying?